Hi there, this is Ed Swartavich, Managing Partner for SI Sensei. I'd like to welcome you to the Zen for the PM lecture series. In this particular session, I'd like to cover the Readiness Overview. This is going to be a discussion about the SI Sensei Readiness Framework that I've put together over the last 30 years, and I want to share with you specifically some of the details. So the question really becomes, what is readiness as it relates to system implementations with software and application systems? Well, there's a couple things. If you just look at the definition itself of readiness, it really talks about a couple things. Being prepared, the people are prepared, the systems are prepared, and the organizations are prepared. They're ready to meet a situation, carry out a sequence of planned actions. Readiness is typically based upon a couple things. A lot of planning, the competency and training of your team members, and having a backup reserve supply of necessary supports and services. When over the course of the last 30 years, I've been directly involved with program implementations, system implementations, and over the course of that time, what I've found is that there's multiple patterns to things that I've seen time and time again. So what I've done is I've taken some time to put together this readiness framework, which really organizes the key components of something that you have to do for each of these implementations time and time again. And what I really did is I boiled it down into three areas. One is program readiness, which is really taking all the program activities that are necessary to properly govern and effectively manage the project itself. The second area is business readiness, is really taking all the people activities and the behaviors to properly prepare the business and the organizations for the program itself. And then finally, the application readiness, which really requires the activities to properly test for high quality the application system, cut over the application system from test into production, and implement the solution into production with the necessary support too. So what I'd like to do is discuss with you a little bit more about the details of each of the different areas. The first area is program readiness. So again, program readiness focusing on governing and effectively managing the program. There are basically three major components to this. One is the people in the program area, and really what it is, it's structuring the alignment of the program executives, the stakeholders, and the sponsors, and the program team members to the goals of the program and the outcomes, making sure there is complete alignment to what is actually going to be done and there's support around that alignment. The second area that's important is the quality of deliverables, and this is where the majority of program managers spend their time. It's managing the details of the schedule, the scope, and the cost of all the deliverables, tagging them to a specific milestone, and also managing the dependencies and the risk and issues with that. You could really spend the majority of your time in this area, which is very important, but you can't forget that these other areas are just as important too. The other area is the program finances. It's not only the program budget itself, it's managing the invoicing of the vendors, working with procurement and purchasing, and also the coordination with finance, and basically putting together your capital expenses and your operational expenses and making sure they get hit to the right journals. The other area to focus on of readiness is business readiness. And again, that's the people, activities, and behaviors to prepare the business for the program. And it really comes with four different focus areas. The first is business alignment. What are the tools and techniques that you need to align the program executives, stakeholders, and sponsors and program teams to the goals and outcomes? So it's not only just the IT side, it's the business side. It's the outcome of what they're actually looking at. So similarly to the program management governance, business readiness has a focus on this too. The other area is impact analysis and planning. When you implement this program, especially transformational change programs, it's going to change people's lives. What does that change really mean? You want to identify and define who's going to be affected by those program changes and what's the impact of these changes mean to them in a daily manner. How does it change their life? Because a lot of things have to be spun up around that, which we'll talk about in just a second. You want to communicate well, provide program awareness. You need to engage the impacted groups. Make sure that they're aware of this impending change. Make sure they have the necessary information and tools to do what they need to adapt to this change that's coming their way. The last part is capabilities and competency, which is really, in many terms, training, ensuring that these impacted groups have been properly trained and are competent to make the new program changes so they'll be effective in their job. So these groups, as we mentioned before, are impacted. What specifically are those impacts? What's changed in their daily lives, and how are you training them now so that in their daily lives they can do their job as effectively as they've done in the past, if not better. The last area is really application readiness, and this is the required activities to properly test, cut over, and implement the solution into production. It has three basic focus areas. One is the quality assurance area. Go through multiple testing. If you think about unit testing, system testing, user acceptance testing, and so forth, how do you ensure that there's high quality final results, okay, which really is matching the user requirements to the different phases of all this testing, right? At the end of the day, does the system do what the users intended it to do in the beginning of the program? And have those changes been effective and put in place? The other area is really application deployment, ensuring that the cutover from the testing environment to the final production environment is performed in a very effective way. You want to minimize any issues that occur, and you want to also minimize the downtime, the planned downtime that's in that window itself. Depending on the data conversions, depending on the situation that you actually have and the complexity of your architecture, infrastructure, and landscape, that could throw a wrench into a lot of things you're doing. So practice in that area and with a lot of practice is really important. The final area is launch support. Once you've actually launched this system into production, how do you make sure you have the right resources and assets in place to provide the support and the training that's necessary? If people are calling up into a help desk, how do you actually direct them with the right answers? How do you basically show them, how things are supposed to be done if they forgot some of the training that they were given early on? You want the right level of support there, tier 1, tier 2, and tier 3, and you want to be able to effectively support the people, because that will really drive the success of your program too. In concluding, I'd like to say that regardless of how you prepare and organize your program, you're still going to have to complete these critical work activities. It's important that you assign the responsibility of these tasks to qualified team members, people that have direct experiences in this area and they have expertise in this area too. You want to be able to create success measurements and exit criteria for each of these critical key areas to determine their overall readiness, right? What is it that you need to move on to the next phase, right? Have you met all the criteria to be successful and move on? And finally, as each of these key areas are complete, you want to continue to execute flawlessly with your team and until the solution has been fully adopted and embraced by the user community. So you need to keep track of post-implementation support metrics, metrics around the program success, metrics around adoption and usage. This concludes this series, this particular session of the series itself. Again, if you have any questions or comments, please contact me at www.sisensei.com, or you can go ahead and email me at ed.swattavage@sisensei.com. I look forward to your feedback. Thank you very much for your attention and time and listening. Appreciate that. Have a great day.